joining me so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Oh my God. Denver's one of my favorite cities to perform at. So anytime that I get a chance to connect with Denver, I'm like, sign me up.
Awesome. I love that. And I mean, like, this is amazing because I know you're busy. You're always writing or performing, or you do it all. You do so much. You have like a resume this long. Like, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny. I like doing different things too. I just don't. So the fact that I have the option to do it, it,
Hmm.
I know I'm very lucky to do it. But yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's funny. 2020 obviously has been a tough year for a lot of people, and I
Yeah.
got to say that work has gotten me through it. And
Hmm.
to me, it's just something that you're always busy, but you always have to make time for things, right? I
That's
mean,
true. That's very true. Like everything that I thought I was going to accomplish in 2020, like I was like, I'm going to do so much. And I was like,
oh, girl, 2020 told everybody's New Year's resolutions, like, get out of my face.
right, no.
2020 is like, oh, you want your life together? Okay.
Right. Good one. How did you feel overall about 2020? Were you like, this is just so weird? Or
Yeah, you know what? It was weird, but I'll tell you, I'm a child from the 80s. I grew up a latchkey kid. So
Mhm.
actually the lockdown wasn't bad for me
Yeah.
because I'm used to it already.
Yes.
So that was interesting. I learned actually one thing that I've learned about 2020 was that, well, first of all, it's weird to live in a time that is historical,
Hmm. Yeah.
that that people will talk about later on, but
Yeah.
also I've learned things about myself that are really interesting, especially with like the the loss of time, the concept of
Hmm.
time. You
Yeah.
actually realize that I personally realized that I was stressing too much about certain deadlines,
Hmm.
and then you realize, but what does it matter? It's like you just stress so much, and you stress. I come from a family, we're all like blue collar, but also the work ethic is real. Like it's
Hmm.
insane. It's that thing where I don't even like to nap because I'm like, what could you be doing in that hour? You know what I mean?
Right. You could be doing something.
Yeah, and 2020 actually made me realize that sometimes we do have plans, but sometimes things get in the way and the plans don't happen, and you just have to realize that the time wasn't now.
Right.
It's kind of like what you were saying, right? Like you
Yeah.
had all these things like prepared. We all did. It's
Yeah.
and it's weird because right now I was talking to a friend of mine about how like the last week of the year, this is the week that everybody wants to get their life together. Like everybody, like, you ready for the new year? You're just like, man, this year I'm gonna lose 1,000 pounds. I'm gonna eat lettuce, like I'm
Yeah.
gonna drink 2 gallons of water a day. Like, I don't know why it's this week.
Right. It's like the pressure's on.
Yes, exactly. And then January 1st comes and you're like, man, I just drank a liter of water. Oh well.
Right? Or like the gym's crowded,
Right? Exactly. Oh, it's cloudy outside. Like,
right? That's my excuse for everything. I'm like, nah,
and I was
my
like,
body. Yeah, I'm like, listen to your body. It needs rest.
I know. Your body needs rest from rest, Mija. You've been resting way too much and you need a rest.
Yes. Well, one thing I did accomplish in 2020, and I hope a lot of people did it, was I got to catch up on my reading. This, honestly, your memoir, Music to My Years, I had to take so many breaks just to cry as I read it because I've never resonated with a book so much. What made you decide that you were going to write your memoir at such a young age?
I actually wanted to write the story because I thought that my life was so specific. Here's the thing, right? When I just started working in Hollywood, I realized that in the room, I was usually the only one of my kind.
Hmm.
That's kind of how it's worked out to be. If I'm not one of the first ones to do it, I'm the first to do it,
Hmm.
which is kind of sad that we're in 2020 and we're still like, I shouldn't be such a pioneer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because time has passed. But the thing is that I always notice that in these rooms, people always think that my story is so different and
Mhm.
so like, almost outlandish, because if it's different, if it's unfamiliar,
Mhm.
everybody thinks like, whoa, how did you do it?
Right.
But the thing is that my neighborhood, everyone was like me.
Mhm. Yeah.
I knew a lot of people. Like my story is a very cool story, but it's a more common story than people think.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, is that we don't talk about those stories, and we don't make them common. We don't normalize them. So for me, I wanted to tell this story about my life. And it's funny because I think that also when you're growing up, like for me, I thought everybody had a similar life to me.
Mhm.
There were certain details that when I got older I realized were different, but overall, I just thought there's so many people
Yeah.
that live this story,
Mhm.
especially Latinas. I grew up in an old school family where, for the longest time, my mom grew up in a very submissive, like child, like a place, in Mexico, her village, it was all men dominated, women were submissive.
Yes.
And it was this thing where for me, I just always saw though that my tias and my abuelas and everything, they were always like the strong ones,
Yeah.
and it was this thing where I'm like, you know what, that's another thing that we talk about, especially when it comes to women. We talk
Mhm.
about women and empowerment and everything,
Mhm.
but it also falls to the side when we talk about women of color, like
Yes.
our empowerment, our, you know what I mean? So for me, I'm like, I'm going to tell my story because I know that there's
Mhm.
other people out there that have gone through it or that
Mhm.
are going through it, and sometimes we need to know that we're not the only ones out there.
Yeah, I think you're so right. And then how you speak about women being submissive, I think that's what I saw growing up too. And ever since I was little, I was like, I'm not getting married. I don't need that. And I'm still that way, you know? And I just
I'm not the way too.
like, what for? I feel like, maybe that was part of it. Maybe that's why I feel like I'm so independent now or need to be. So
Absolutely. I agree with, honestly, I'm the same way. And people always thought, no, when you're older, you're going to want to get married. And I'm like, and I used to always tell people, you might be right, but you might be wrong. But
mhm,
don't assume that it comes with age,
right.
where like you get to a certain age and then you feel like you have to get married or what have you. Like it just doesn't, sometimes it just doesn't happen. You know what
It
I mean?
doesn't.
It's just, and again, it's like that's another choice. My apartment, my place is full of Legos, it's full of toys and everything. And I'm like, I can't live with anybody, then I gotta share my stuff. Like,
That's how I think too. I'm like, I feel like I'm so set in my ways too that I'd be like, excuse me, what are you doing here, sir?
I was imagining trying to live with someone during 2020, and I'm like,
No.
oh my, I'd be in jail right now for murder. Like I would be like on trial.
Right? Oh my goodness. Or like having kids would be, I don't know how. I can't even
I
get
have,
myself
yeah,
ready.
I have friends that have kids, and I check in on them. I try to check in on them as much as I can because I know, it's to change that schedule from going to so many of them having school from a lot of the day
Yeah.
to just being at home. Ooh, like my heart goes out to them. Like I want to pour out, I want to pour out some for my homies. You know what I mean?
The struggle is real on that
For
one.
real.
I know. And then I feel sometimes, as single independent women, people will be like, well, you don't know what tired is, or, you're so lucky. And I was like, well, tired is tired.
Exactly. Look, I'm sorry. There is not a version of married tired and single tired.
Right.
Okay. First of all, you're tired. You're tired. If your feet hurt, like when you go hike, your body's going to ache, not because you're single or married or have children. It's because your feet hurt. You know what I mean?
That's so true.
I,
More people be
say,
like that.
yeah. Like, it's funny because, especially in my family, I had to help my sister raise her kids.
Mhm.
So people didn't understand why I never had that urge to have kids. And it was
Yeah.
like I already went through that. So
Yeah.
it was this thing where it was a big part of my life, and it's this thing where, yeah, you're right. I look, being tired, being stressed out, everything, it's all subjective, but we can't take away somebody's feelings and not validate them and not tell them, hey, you're right to be tired. You know what I mean? It's not a competition to see who's most tired.
Right. That's so true.
You know, it's
No.
like when Cansada 2021 goes to, like, no one says that, you know?
I'm in it to win it.
I know, exactly, girl. I'm gonna win this crown.
Now, what I love in your book too is that you talk about Selena and how she straddled two cultures.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that is like what we have grown up with, because I remember one scene in the movie where her dad was like, we got to be more Mexican than the Mexicans, more American than the Americans. And I think that's
Yes.
so true,
Yes.
especially, you know, as a public figure like yourself. Like, do you feel like that?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. So my first language is Spanish. And I always say that it's because my mom never learned English. You know, she came here from Mexico, and it's funny because for a long time I was always very nervous to speak Spanish because people would correct my Spanish, and then people would say, "Oh, you don't know how to speak Spanish," and I used to always tell them, "Well, my mom understood me. Like, why was my mom faking it?" You know, and it's this thing where we realize I actually, once I had my TV show years ago, I realized that a lot of people like to critique if it's not their own story.
Yes.
So it's this thing where, you know, it's like everybody has a preconceived idea of what they think it's like.
Yeah.
But people have to understand, especially with me, I was born in Texas. I was born and raised in Texas. I spent time in Mexico too because of my family. But
Mhm.
it's this thing where I had to really learn how to be American on my own while I was teaching my mom.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that thing. It's like like my mom wasn't teaching me about Thanksgiving. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And it's this, so like all the information I got was from school,
Mhm.
TV shows, movies. You know, so but you're right. You know, because everybody, to me, I've had moments. I don't know about you, but for me, I've had moments where everybody says, "Oh, you speak so well." You know, you know, like they're surprised. And I'm like, well, yeah, I was born in Texas. Like, what do you know what I mean? Like
I know what I'm doing.
they make it seem like you know, like when we go to school, we don't learn all the alphabet. They're just like teaching 20 letters. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. When I'm like, I speak Spanish. We got 4 extra letters, dude. We should speak better than you.
Right.
You don't know what an enya is. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, but it's, yeah, it's, but then, you know, I would go to Mexico, and there were things that, you know, sometimes I felt I was seen as very quote unquote Latina
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
school. You know
Mhm.
what I
Oh,
mean?
okay.
Very Mexican, you know, at
Yes.
school. But then I go to hang out with my family in Mexico, and I would be completely like, you know, like American, you know,
Right.
and it's small things, but it's, you know, I remember like for me going to Mexico to visit my grandmother. She used to live in Reynosa, and we would go visit her, and my favorite thing over there was going to the panaderias because they would give you a tray and you would pick the bread yourself. And
Yes.
in
Uh-huh.
my town, they would pick it for you. So like, example, I would get so happy, and everybody's like, "Girl, why are you so happy that you can pick your own pan dulce? Like, get out of here!" And I'm like, "This is so different." Like, you know what I mean?
This is freedom.
Like, yeah, the freedom. I can pick up this concha and then put it back. Like, you know,
Right. Maybe not in 2020.
I know, in 2020, you touch it like you own it for life. You put it away if you have to. Like, you own it.
Right? Like even going to the grocery store when you pick an apple and you're like, oh, I don't want that one, but you're like,
Oh,
I
you
have
know
to.
that I grab one of the plastic bags and I put them on my fingers, on my hands, and then I
Oh,
grab the produce
that's
so
a
that,
good hack.
so that I don't touch them.
That's a really good hack. I need to use that.
I'm all about the life hacks. Oh,
Don't mind me. I'm just
I
gonna.
know. I'm like, look at me not touching it, but judging it like we're supposed to with the fruit.
Right. With your book, and you relate it to music so much, and I love that because I think music is universal.
Mhm.
Now, are there any new songs that have resonated in, like, I guess the past couple years that you're like, oh, I love that one?
Oh my God. Yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, I'm trying to just think off the top of my head. Like, pretty much all of Lizzo's album was like,
Yeah.
for me, like sometimes you hear a song and you're like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, but thinking off the top of my head, it's always hard. I listen to a lot of music.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is every day I wake up with and listen to a song.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'll pick the song, sometimes I randomly listen to it, and that's how I start my day. And I
Okay.
love doing that, and I've been doing that forever.
Hmm.
Every day I actually, especially for the past couple of months, I haven't been watching TV. I
Okay.
listen to music.
Okay.
And for me, it's just I've always had this connection with music. So for me, when I pick songs, it takes a long time for me to
Mm-hmm.
pick the song because the songs mean different things to different people. And I'm not that kind of person that's like, I love all music. Do you like country? Well, yeah, no, like, no, yeah, I love it. You know what I mean? It's like when I say I love music, I don't mean I like one specific song. I'll
Yes.
tell you that if you gave me like a day, I could give you a playlist of like 2020. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I'm the person that creates playlists all the time. I'm like a little radio station, and I specific like sometimes I'll do IG lives, and I'm like today's playlist 90s one hit wonders, R&B. You
Oh, that's
should be
awesome.
singing the songs when you were in teenagers, but here we go. You know what I mean? Like, you know?
I love that you mentioned Lizzo because I feel like Lizzo gets so much criticism on social media. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what I wanted to talk to you about too is do you think social media has just gone out of control? Because I feel like, especially as women,
Mhm.
we get judged on
Yeah.
our social media. And I know you had said in your book that you had gotten healthy and people were like,
Yes.
oh, you're getting too Hollywood.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think people will comment on women's bodies and looks. And it's
Yes.
like, well, who are you? And why are you doing this on my Instagram or, whatever?
It's funny because I do. To me, social media can be amazing.
Hmm.
And I think it can be amazing when it allows you to get information that you probably wouldn't get otherwise, meaning like news,
Hmm.
breaking news. If there's a protest happening somewhere, I can find out about it in real time because of social media.
Yes.
That's great. Having
Hmm.
said that, there are a lot of people that use it for their own, for their own like mental like well-being. If
Hmm.
it makes them feel better to judge you,
Hmm.
they can. They
Hmm.
can create a fake account and
Yeah.
just go and just spend their entire day just going after you and criticizing. The other day, this past week, I posted a picture and it was just at a weird angle. I was wearing a sweatshirt that I loved that I bought online, and
Uh-huh.
it had words on it, so I was trying to get it to fit perfectly.
Yeah.
So to get the angle is really hard to get the words in,
It
right?
is.
So I have to say that in that picture, my face looked different because of the angle,
Mhm.
And there was someone on Facebook that asked me if I like why I got surgery, and it was like this thing, like, and I was like, we're in a pandemic and you think I'm getting surgery right now? Like, are you kidding? Like, you know what I mean? Like and they and but the thing is that their profile picture had like her like their profile picture had like 10 filters on top of each other. You know what I mean? Like a picture where it's so blurry that you're like, I think that's a person underneath all
Right.
of it. And I'm like, dude, but also, yes, I think that we have a lot of preconceived ideas, and I think that we've done it to ourselves in
Mhm.
society. But like with Lizzo, thing is that I always come from the school of I lost weight because I'm diabetic, still
Mhm.
losing weight,
Mhm.
and it's this thing where to me, I have the access to doctors,
Yes.
to medication, to being able to do it. Why not do it?
Yeah.
So I've been trying to take care of myself seriously because I want to show, especially the Latino community, that
Mhm.
we take care of each other
Yes.
because we don't get the chance to actually get the information that's needed or access to anything. So I wanted to kind of be very public with me being diabetic. But
Mhm.
yeah, you're right. It's like the first time that when I started losing weight, people said that I was too Hollywood, and I kept telling them like, dude, I'm trying not to die. Like
Right.
that's you know what I mean? And it's that thing where again, people think that, oh, well, just be yourself, blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, but you're judging me on being like the version of myself that you think I should be.
You're
You
right.
know, so it's like, when found out I was diabetic, I was really diabetic. I was very sick, and now I'm so much better and everything. And the result is, had to eat better and change my lifestyle. And
Yeah.
you're right. Like what you were saying, it's like you're like, to me, I do think that social media does have criticism, because also, um, what power do I have to tell you to just come on and tell you what I think is wrong with you? You
Right.
know? And it's funny because years ago, there was an old TV show called Iconoclast. And
Mhm.
they would get two celebrities and they would kind of hang out and interview each other. There was an episode with Dave Chappelle and Maya Angelou.
Okay.
Maya Angelou had this great like point that she made, and I'm gonna ruin it, but along the lines, it was about how you can't really listen to criticism, both good and bad,
Mhm.
because if you accept the good, you gotta accept the bad. So she
Okay.
always said, "Don't pick it up, don't put it down." So
Okay.
don't pick it up, don't put it down. So for me, it was this thing where I don't I don't Google myself.
Mhm.
Even when I had the review, like my show, any review, I have a friend of mine read it just
Yeah.
to tell me, like, just I'm like, did they get what I was trying to do? But
Uh-huh.
again, you can't. It is very easy to get caught up, especially this year when so many of us don't have, our schedules changed. It's
Mhm.
very easy to get caught up on the comments, but you also have to think about what the comments are coming from. I've
Yeah.
always said it's like social media. I really don't, I like when people are real. I
Yes.
don't pay attention when, there's fake accounts that are commenting, because you're fake. Like, you don't
Right.
even exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
you have to hide behind something to comment.
exactly. It's like, I show my face, you show yours. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a good message that we all need. And it's like how you mentioned about how like, these bullies try and friend you on social media. And I'm like, why?
Did you forget history?
Right.
I'm sorry, you trying to friend me, you bully. Like, I'm going to therapy. One of the reasons is you're costing me hundreds of dollars, and you
Yeah,
want me to friend you? Get out of my face with that.
I know. And it's like, did they have a different version? Did they think they were
Oh
being
yeah.
nice?
It's like, I always have this saying in our family. It's like, that saying is, forgive and forget, but in our family we forget to forgive. No, 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 no.
Always here.
I know, I'm like, oh, hi, you remember on, it takes out my notebook, like November 5th, 1984, when you said that I wasn't all that and you didn't lend me a pencil? Now, who needs a pencil? Like, you know what I mean?
I remember.
I'm that person.
So one thing too is you got labeled as difficult at times,
Yeah.
and just for speaking up, just for
Yeah.
standing up for yourself. Do
Hmm.
you think that was unfair? Do you think that was because you are a woman and a woman of color?
Actually, that's a difficult question to answer. I think that partly yes. I
Mhm.
will say that one thing that I always realized, one thing that I was seen as difficult for is asking why.
Mhm.
And literally the question why. And it wasn't because of the way that I asked it. It
Mm.
was because the question was asked at all. So
Right.
for me, again, my family's very practical, right? So for me, if I saw a process where I'm like, well, that seems excessive, like, why don't we cut those two steps and then we don't have to worry about that? you
Yeah.
know if they said, well, we don't do it that way, and I would ask why,
Right.
they would get offended.
Yes.
And it was that thing where I'm legitimately asking why,
Mhm.
because we would save money and time.
Right.
Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people. The problem is that when you ask why, it doesn't matter that you ask it or how you ask it. It's how people react to it. So it really becomes their feelings
Mhm.
and their thoughts.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, it was funny on my show. I was seen as difficult by some of the writers because they thought that I wanted to tell my stories too much. The
Mhm.
show was about my life. I
Right.
got the show because I sold it about my life, you know? And it was this thing where I wasn't a college graduate. I didn't graduate from college, you know. I was a stand-up comic. The writers all thought, you know, the writers that I had extreme problems with, they were college educated. They had worked on other shows, and they were just like basically like, okay, little girl, let me show you. This is, you know, and it's like, you know, I even remember saying it, and I think I wrote it in the book. I mean, one day it got so heated that I had to tell them, like, you know, all of you get to work somewhere else eventually. This could be the only thing I ever do, and the
Hmm.
name of the show is my name.
Yes.
So when you guys go on to your other jobs, I will always have to answer questions to the show.
Yeah.
This is why we do it the way that we're doing it, because this is my life, you know.
Yes.
And it's true, because these people, a couple people that thought, you know, that I had so much tension with, it was this thing where you kind of had to remind them there is no show without this brown woman,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know. And it was this, and that's all it was. So yeah, you know, I think that a lot of people don't, when they're not used to you,
hmm,
they show that they're not used to you.
yes.
They might be unaware
Hmm.
that they're not used to you and treating you differently, but
Yes.
that's what it is, you
Yeah.
know. And that's why for me, it was something, the high I had in high school really taught me that, you know, not everybody's going to like you. And
Mhm.
I, at a young age, I thought, you know what, if you don't like me, I'm going to give you a reason not to like me. And
Yeah.
I started questioning everything, because I thought, I don't mind being seen as difficult if that means that the people behind me
Hmm.
don't get seen as difficult.
Right.
I would rather be seen difficult, you
Right.
know, because it's like someone's got to do it so that other people aren't seen as it. And I'll do it freely. So, you know, it's like, so for me, I've always been known as a person. If you ask me about people, if you ask me about certain things, I will always give you my opinion. I'm not
Mhm.
that person that's like, well, you know, they're very nice people. No, no, no. Look, I don't care how this is how they treated me.
Yeah.
So just know that this is what they're capable of, blah, blah, blah. But for me, it's like, if you have an opportunity, you have to do the opportunity. You have to do everything in a very genuine, authentic, honest way, or
Yeah.
else it's not worth it.
It,
So for me, I like to question things, and it turns out people do not like to be questioned.
they don't. It hurts their ego.
It does. It's like I'm. It's not like I'm saying like, "Hey, you know, like let me make up a name, like, hey, Jeff, like you know what I mean? Like, what is your problem, Jeff? I asked why, but really, I'm asking you, why do you think you're here? You're worth, like, you know, it's like, dude, I'm just asking you for coffee, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's how they take it.
So for 2021, what can we expect? I mean, are you working on anything that we can look forward to?
Yes. So here's the deal. In 2016, I wrote it about it in the book. When the election happened, I was so worried for just the community, for
Mhm.
Latinos, for the people that I grew up in South Texas, so I wanted to make sure that everybody was okay.
Yes.
At that point, I had sold a show. I was going to work on another show, and I honestly was not. I just didn't feel like the country was ready for you know, another Latina led show. You
Hmm.
know, at that time it was and honestly, I didn't feel like being funny, so
Yeah.
I left. And I kind of left Hollywood from like creating and everything. And I remember sending an email to my agents and my managers, basically saying like, I gotta go do this. I'm gonna go work with my community, blah blah blah, later.
You're right.
Literally, like I want to say a year and a half ago, I emailed them all, and I was like, hey guys, do you remember me? Like, what's going on? Hey everybody, like, hey, so FYI, hi, how are you? Like, you know what I mean? I had decided, I worked on the Biden campaign, and I just thought to myself, you know what? I've gave myself enough years. I'm gonna see, and literally, like, I'm not joking. I was like, I'm gonna see if, you know, in this business, there's always a fear that people forget about you, because
Yeah.
it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Time goes by quick, everything. So like, for especially, and And I'm that person that just thinks like that. I'm like the person that thinks the worst is always gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like if I
Right.
order a burger, I'm like, oh my God, I might die from this burger. Like that's just me. So I told myself, I'm going to go out and talk to people and see what I can do.
Mhm.
And literally, people came back and they're like, we've been waiting for you to do something. Like, what have you been doing? Like, what do you, you know? And I started working on stuff. So right now, I'm working on a podcast. It's a limited series podcast that's going to be out on Vox. It's by Vox. It's called the Chicano Squad, and it's a history podcast that actually tells the story of the first Latino homicide squad in the United States. They
Oh
were
my,
based in Houston. It's a really awesome story. It's 11 episodes. It starts January 5th. I'm narrating it, but I also had the chance to write on the episodes and just give it a clear narrative.
oh
It's a
wow.
really cool story, and I think it's so important. And um, I'm also helping with trying to get the money for the Smithsonian Latino Museum that just got
Yes.
passed.
Wow.
So for me, I'm trying. Our goal is to open the museum in 8 years. That's how long it usually takes for a museum, but I'm very excited about that.
Oh,
And I'm working on a project for now that will be out in Christmas 2021. I can't talk about it, but it's really fun. It's very cool. It's a comedy, and I'm working on it with a really good friend of mine that everybody knows. And I have a couple things too, but I'm very careful about what I say I'm doing and what I'm not, because in this business sometimes you have a project one day and then the next day like it got taken away for some reason, like but what I'm talking about, these projects are things that are legitimately happening. They're already working, like I'm working on them and everything. So that for now is
okay.
what I've been doing in 2020 that will be out this year, and there's more to come. Oh, I'm also narrating a Pixar documentary that will be out soon on Disney Plus, so that'll be cool.
Oh, you are really busy. That work ethic, you did not lie about that.
Girl, I mean, it's I like working. I hadn't. This is kind of like the time of me going back to work and creating. I hadn't created anything in years, and I was like, you know what? I got to do it. I'm ready. I think that 2021 will be um, a good year. I really believe that 2020 was a lot of trials,
Mhm.
and 2021 is a moment where we all maybe come out of it a little different,
Yeah,
and
I think so.
hopefully different in a better way.
I
And it's that thing that also with so many people struggling in 2020, I just hope that 2021 is just so much better for all of us.
I hope so too. I think it's going to be. We're off to a fresh start in
Yes, yes,
2021.
we're gonna lose those 1,000 pounds, and we're gonna drink a can of water every day, girl.
I'm gonna go to the grocery store, get my lettuce.
Oh, I know. Oh man, I'm gonna drive a car of lettuce when I'm hungry. I just eat my car. Like it's gonna be crazy.
Oh my goodness, Cristela, thank you so much. And we are all rooting for you. We're so proud of you because seeing all that you accomplish, it's like seeing one of us up there. So thank you so much for taking the time. We are so proud.
Thank you so much for saying that, because honestly, I have to say that when I do something, I like to take people on the ride to on it and to show people what it is that we're doing, because I really do believe that when I get to do something, we all really get to do it.
Yes,
And that,
that is so
and to me, like that's a very important thing. Thank you so much for having me on. This was really
thank
fun.
you. Thank you so much. Have an awesome, oh, and happy early birthday too. Almost
Oh,
forgot.
someone reminded me it was my birthday like next week or something, and I was like, get out of here. Like,
No. Oh.
oh, thank you.
I hope you enjoy it.
I'll try.
Awesome. Thank you.